US President Donald Trump is promising to make US defence great again. He's pledged to ramp up Pentagon spending by $70 billion, up 9% on last year. But Mr Trump's not happy about the price of some military hardware. In a series of tweets, he's taken aim at defence giant Lockheed Martin over the Joint Strike Fighter program, declaring the cost out of control. And he's claimed credit for a discount for the latest batch of the F-35 stealth fighter.
We've saved taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars by bringing down the price of fantastic, and it is a fantastic, new F-35 jet fighter.
Lockheed has told the ABC Australia will also see discounts on the 70-plus jets that are on order. The first two F-35s to touch down in the country have a starring role in the Avalon Air Show this Friday. The jets are flying into claims the program has been plagued by technical problems and delays. But the CEO of Lockheed Martin is in Australia for the debut of the high-tech fighter jets. In an exclusive interview with the ABC, Marillyn Hewson dismissed criticism of the Joint Strike Fighter program. She says the jets will be delivered on time, on budget and combat ready. I caught up with Marillyn Hewson in Canberra. Marillyn Hewson, the F-35 will debut at the Avalon Air Show this week in Victoria, but there are reports that the plane is a long way from being battle ready. Is that right?
Actually, that isn't right. As a matter of fact, the U.S. Marine Corps has already declared it combat ready in 2015, and the U.S. Air Force declared it combat ready last year. So we have over 200 that have been delivered and then are flying around the world, and the aircraft is ready. And we'll see other services in other countries declare their initial operating capability, including Australia, in a couple of years.
Because there are concerns following the Pentagon's Michael Gilmore's report from recently, which says deficiencies continue to be discovered at a rate of around 20 per month. Now, Australia is expecting battle-ready planes by 2020. Can you guarantee that that will happen and that these aircraft will be fault-free?
The aircraft is a complex development program. We are still in that development program. We expect to wrap that up this year. And what Dr. Gilmore's studies do is go look at where it is in that development process. Nothing in his report is a surprise at all to any of us. We will continue to work through the development. And I can assure you that we will get through all of that development and the aircraft will be ready operationally. And so when Australia receives their aircraft, they'll have an opportunity to get them ready for their deployment as well. And
that will be on time, because obviously the F-35 program has been plagued, particularly in the past, by significant delays.
Well, that's in the distant past, actually. When we rebased the program in 2010, and since then we have been on schedule, on cost, and the program's been going very well. So that's many years ago when it was off track. Today, since 2010, it's been on track, and we're very proud of how the program is progressing.
The US Air Force Joint Strike Fighter boss, John Bogdan, has said this week in Australia he needs the cost of the F-35 to be lower than $85 million by 2019, and he'd prefer it to be closer to $80 million. Is that feasible?
Yes, it is feasible, and actually we're working very closely with the US government on a plan to get there. It is, as we continue to ramp up the program, we will see the cost come down with the increased volume, but we're also working on cost reduction initiatives that allow us to continue to drive the aircraft down to the $80 to $85 million aircraft by that time frame.
Can you see it going lower as more orders come in?
I'm hoping that as we continue to get more volume, we'll have an opportunity, and certainly Australia will benefit from those significant savings as we continue to produce more aircraft.
Will Australia see the discounts as quickly as, say, the US is, which of course is ordering far more planes than what we are?
Well, when Australia orders aircraft, they order them within the same lot or batch of aircraft alongside the U.S. government aircraft and other allies and partners in the program. So they are priced within that same time frame. Now, they may have some unique capabilities that Australia wants to add, but that would be priced separately.
You mentioned working with the US government to bring the price down. Of course, the tweets from President Donald Trump cannot be ignored by a company like Lockheed Martin. He says he has single-handedly brought down the cost of the F-53 largely through his strident remarks via the medium of Twitter. Is that true, or was the cost of the F-35 coming down anyway?
Well, I think you should have to step back and understand, what I believe that President Trump is trying to communicate. He is going to spend more on defense in the United States. The F-35 is the largest defense program. So rightfully, he should ask, is it at the lowest price that we provide the best value to the taxpayer, just as we want in Australia as well. And so as he asked his questions and encouraged us with the U.S. government, he did help accelerate negotiations, and he sharpened the focus on cost. So I would give him a lot of credit for that. We would, certainly we were already in negotiations, certainly we were already ramping up the program, but his focus, I think, helped us get to a better position.
What if he tweets again asking for another discount? Can you afford that? Can you be as quick to respond the next time?
Well, we will constantly work with the administration and with the Department of Defense, with our new Secretary of Defense, Secretary Mattis, and we'll work alongside them on how we continue to bring the best value to the taxpayer. It's very important that we continue to produce the aircraft at the continued increase in rate, because that, more than anything else, will bring the unit cost down.
Because you also have to balance not only the government's demands, but you also have investor demands. I mean, they want you to make profits, and they want you to make big profits.
Well, our investors expect us to, get a good return for the risk that we take with any program that we have, and so we're going to constantly be focused on how do we get the best value for our customer, and in that generally translates into best value for our investors.
The way that the administration has been communicating, does it make that tougher for a company like Lockheed to balance the needs of investors and its business strategy against government relations?
Well, I think the interest of the Trump administration in what our aircraft cost or any of our other systems cost is relevant. I mean, if you look at where we're spending, what the U.S. government spends on defense, that represents over 70% of our business. So it's a very important element. We're going to listen, and we're going to work alongside Congress and the Trump administration on how we can do the best that we can. Stable budgets, driving out regulations, getting better tax reform are all going to be things that will help us to produce the products that we need to for the U.S. government, but also do them at the best value.
The U.S. is expected to increase its military spending. If this gets through Congress, do you expect allies like Australia to match that?
In terms of increasing defense spending, I do think that there is a very complex and dynamic threat environment that all of us operate in around the world. And so the first order for any country is to have national security, to protect their citizens and create an environment that's safe and secure so that they can prosper and they can do the things they need to do to trade and invest and achieve their aspirations. And so I think from that perspective, if the threats continue to drive, then countries will need to put that as their first priority, make sure that they spend on national security to address those threats.
Where do you think the future of warfare is going? If there's going to be a pickup in spending, what do you expect them to be spending on?
Well, I think if you think about Australia specifically, I mean, you want to have secure sea lanes. That's very important for trade. It's very important for international cooperation. And so I think having that kind of a focus, for example, the effort that the Australian government has put on the future submarine combat system, I mean, that's an important element because they recognize the need for safe and secure sea lanes. So that would be one area. Another would be air superiority, the ability to have aircraft like the F-35 to be able to deal with any threats in the air environment that they need to.
On that point, what are the innovations or the blue sky thinking that Lockheed Martin is doing on that front? I mean, there's a lot of focus on drones and unmanned planes. Where do you see that going? Do you see that as a major part of future military hardware?
Well, we're certainly investing in autonomy and in robotics and a lot of the unmanned capabilities. We're also investing in hypersonics, where things can go 6 times the speed of sound. So there's a lot of areas that we're investing in along that line.
The F-35 is made up of parts from around the world. There are concerns about protectionist policies coming in the US and across Europe as well. Do you see protectionist policies as a potential threat to particularly the aviation world, where planes are made up of so many parts from around the world?
Well, on the F-35 specifically, there's a lot of Australian companies that are engaged in that program. We have more than 50 companies that have been engaged in the F-35 since its outset. And so with that, that's bringing a lot of economic development to the country. They have over 800 million Australian dollars worth of contracts. And if you extend that out to the life of that program, it's going to be something like $5.2 billion of economic impact in Australia. We don't see that changing in terms of taking away that work. Early on, Australia bought into the program and participated in the development. And so those companies that are engaged in it are going to continue to provide components to the worldwide fleet of F-35s.
Do protectionist policies make it potentially more difficult to be able to globally source?
I think in this case we've already sourced what is creating, building the F-35 today. I don't see a change in that. If you think about the fact that not only are parts built in Australia, they're built in the US, they're built in a lot of our partners around the world, and we're well down a production process and it's working quite well.
Lockheed Martin has started up something that you've called the Stellar Lab in Australia to research and develop innovations in the Lockheed Martin businesses, including subs to all the way through to planes. Why Australia?
Well, it was a competitive process, to be honest with you. We looked at other locations outside of the U.S. This is absolutely our first multidisciplinary lab for research and development that we have placed outside of the U.S. And the reason Australia is why we cited it in Australia is because Australia has a reputation, first of all, through the government's focus on innovation, on defense industries, on science, and moreover, it has a skilled workforce, and we are going to be hiring about 20 PhDs out of universities in Australia to participate in the research projects that we'll have underway at the Stellar Lab.
Do you expect that number to grow over time? Do you have expansion plans for that lab?
Well, currently we have committed to $13 million Australian dollars over the next 3 years, which will allow us to put in place this plan of up to 20 PhD students that are candidates that will join our team. But moreover, as we develop research and development projects that will bring a return that we see value to, then I could see us potentially growing beyond that.
And what's the focus of the lab here? What are you hoping they will come up with?
Well, we're planning to work on a lot of research and development projects and things that would help for the long term Australia's capabilities in the defense arena as well as the US and other areas. And it's things like I mentioned before, autonomy and unmanned capabilities, hypersonics, things like communications and control and computer systems and intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, things that all fit within the defense capabilities that we need to bring to bear. With the threats changing like they are, we want to make sure that we stay on the leading edge in the technology that we provide to our countries.
Australia is quite down on our ability to participate in manufacturing globally, and we don't really embrace our innovative culture too much because we think it will displace workers across the economy. How important do you think it is for countries to embrace innovation and to embrace companies like Lockheed Martin coming here and spending money?
I think it's critically important. I think for a country, we look at our company, for example. Innovation is the lifeblood of our company. We've been a company for over 105 years, and if we weren't constantly innovating and investing in research and development, we would not continue to grow and provide the capabilities we need to. For a country like Australia, innovation is foundational to the economic growth of the country. It's what allows businesses to excel, to provide capabilities, and so I think it's advanced manufacturing, innovation, constant focus on research and development is very, very important.
Marillyn Hewson, it's been great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Elise.